Welcome to Same Day, Different Century. I'm Zach. Today is June 20th. It's just after 6 in the morning. An 18-year-old girl is asleep in her bedroom at Kensington Palace in London. She shares that bedroom with her mother, not by choice. That's simply how it's always been. She has never, not once in her entire life, been permitted to sleep in a room alone. But someone is about to knock on that door. And when it opens, everything changes. For her, for Britain, and frankly, for the world. June 20th, 1837. The day Queen Victoria woke up as the sovereign of one of the world's most powerful nations. Let's set the scene. Alexandrina Victoria, she went by Victoria, was 18 years old, the daughter of Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, and Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Her father died before she turned 1 year old, leaving her to be raised by her German-born mother in the drafty, politically charged halls of Kensington Palace. She was the niece of the sitting king, William IV, who had no legitimate surviving children. That made Victoria the heir presumptive to the British throne. Everyone at court knew it. Victoria herself had known it since around the age of 10. She had reportedly been shown a genealogical table as a child, a visual map of where she stood in the line of succession, and her response, according to accounts passed down through the period, was a quiet, "I will be good." Whether that precise exchange happened exactly as reported is debated, but what is clear is that Victoria understood from a young age what was coming, and she prepared for it accordingly. But understanding that you will one day be queen and actually being queen, those are two entirely different things. Here's what Victoria's daily life actually looked like in the years leading up to that morning. Her mother, the Duchess of Kent, and a man named Sir John Conroy, the Duchess's comptroller, private secretary, and closest advisor, had constructed what historians now call the Kensington system. Under the Kensington system, Victoria's contact with the royal court and wider society was tightly controlled. Her interactions with her royal relatives, including the king, were closely supervised. She was never to have a private, unsupervised conversation with any person outside the household. She shared a bedroom with her mother every single night. She was not even permitted to walk down a staircase without someone physically holding her hand. The stated rationale was protection. The actual function was control. Conroy and the Duchess believed that if they could keep Victoria sufficiently dependent, emotionally, socially, and intellectually, they could position themselves to effectively govern through her when she eventually took the throne. In 1835, when Victoria was seriously ill, Conroy reportedly pressured her, at her bedside while she was at her most vulnerable, to sign a document that would have granted him an official role in her future government. She refused. Victoria kept a private journal throughout these years, one she guarded carefully, and her documented feelings toward Conroy are unambiguous. She despised him, and she endured. By the spring of 1837, King William IV was dying. He was 71 years old and gravely ill, suffering from pneumonia and the effects of declining health. Victoria had turned 18 on May 24th of that year, just 27 days before June 20th, which was significant because 18 was the threshold for reigning without a regent. Had she still been a minor when the king died, the Duchess of Kent would have served as regent, effectively handing Conroy the influence he had spent years engineering. There is a story, historically debated but persistent, that William IV clung to life specifically to outlast Victoria's minority, that he was determined to deny the Duchess the regency she had been positioning herself for. Whether that's precisely true is hard to verify, but it fits everything we know about the political dynamics of that court, and the timing does cut close enough to be striking. William IV died at 12 minutes past 2 in the morning on June 20th, 1837, at Windsor Castle. Almost immediately, two men began the roughly 25-mile journey from Windsor toward London: William Halley, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and the Lord Chamberlain. These were the official bearers of the news. They arrived at Kensington Palace in the early hours of the morning and were initially kept waiting for some time before they were admitted into the building, as the household was still asleep. At 6 o'clock, the Duchess of Kent woke her daughter and told her that two men were asking to see her. Victoria got out of bed. She put on a dressing gown, and then she did something that, given her entire upbringing, was a quietly radical act. She walked into her sitting room and received those men alone. No mother, no Conroy. The Lord Chamberlain informed her that her uncle the king had died earlier that morning, and that, consequently, she was now queen. Victoria recorded this moment in her journal with striking precision. She noted the exact time of the king's death, described the dressing gown, described the sitting room, and specifically recorded that she received the men alone. She was 18 years old. She had just absorbed the most consequential news of her life, and she had the composure and the deliberateness to document it with that level of specificity. That single word, alone, is not incidental. She wrote it with purpose. She knew exactly what it represented. At 9 a.m., Victoria met with her Prime Minister, Lord Melbourne, for the first of what would become nearly daily working audiences. Melbourne, a Whig politician in his late 50s, worldly and politically shrewd, became her closest advisor and something close to a surrogate father during the early years of her reign. He guided her through the mechanics of constitutional monarchy and the rhythms and obligations of governing within a parliamentary system. Victoria's letters and journals from this period make clear how deeply she valued and trusted him. Later that same morning, Victoria held her first Privy Council meeting at Kensington Palace. She walked into a room full of some of the most powerful and formidable men in Britain, cabinet ministers, senior military commanders, the great political figures of the age, and she faced them without any visible hesitation. By the contemporary accounts that survive, the assembled council was visibly moved. These were men who had, presumably, been uncertain of what to expect from an 18-year-old who had been largely shielded from the world her entire life. What they found was a composed, deliberate young woman who delivered her prepared declaration in a clear and steady voice. The Duke of Wellington, the victor of Waterloo, reportedly left the meeting impressed by her composure. Others described the scene in similar terms. And then she went home, where she did two more things worth noting. First, she had her bed moved out of her mother's bedroom. For the first time in her life, she slept alone. Second, Sir John Conroy was effectively shut out of her inner circle. He would never hold the influence he had spent more than a decade positioning himself to obtain. The Kensington system, built over 18 years to produce a controllable queen, collapsed on the very morning it was supposed to bear fruit. Victoria would reign for over 63 years. At the time of her death, it was the longest reign in British history. She survived multiple assassination attempts. She married Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, had 9 children, and her children's and grandchildren's marriages into the royal houses of Germany, Russia, Greece, Spain, and Romania earned her the enduring nickname the Grandmother of Europe. In 1877, she was proclaimed Empress of India. She presided over the height of the British Empire, the full force of the Industrial Revolution, and tectonic shifts in science, politics, and global geography. When she died in January 1901, the world had been shaped by her reign. The Victorian era is not named for a century or a movement or an ideology. It is named for a single person. That is how thoroughly one life can mark history. And it all started with a knock on a door at 6 a.m, a girl in a dressing gown, and one word in her journal: alone. That same day, different century. I'm Zach. We'll be back tomorrow with another date, another story. Thanks for listening.